I've been reading about Right Livelihood, and it wasn't until I was working on my talk last night and I found some stuff by Larry Yang, and that was what really touched me and hit me and said, this is what I think is so important to convey. Um, and coincidentally, today is World Mental Health Day. And there's something about those two things meeting that I think is particularly important to us in these times of the pandemic. That there is something so important about maintaining one's mental health while trying to practice right livelihood. And so I found two quotes from Buddhist scripture about right livelihood. The first is from, okay, I'm not good at pronouncing Pali words, so I'm going to mess it up. Anguttara Nikaya. And the Buddha said, monks and contemplatives should steer clear of fortune-telling, blood sacrifices, and other base or lowly arts. The Digha Nikaya says, the careers of a soldier and actor are also full of dangers to the soul. And the Samataya Nikaya says, and any activity requiring dishonesty and injury will annul spiritual progress. So the Buddha was not vague about what right livelihood isn't. Bhikkhu Basanagara Rahula, in his book, The Buddha's Teachings on Prosperity, quoted a scripture from the Numerical Discourses. The layperson's objective is to live a long and dignified life with the wealth obtained through rightful means. And rightful means meant any occupation that did not cause unnecessary harm to other living things. My day job is as a physician assistant, and physician assistants aren't required to take the Hippocratic Oath, but that was the other thing that kept coming up for me in a big way as I was working on writing my talk. The Hippocratic Oath is primum non nocere. First, do no harm. Oops. And so I'm not going to even attempt to interpret Larry Yang for you. I'm going to read a paragraph from an excerpt of one of his book. And the paragraph was from an article published in the newsletter of the Buddhist Peace Fellowship. The title of the article is Awakening Together with Integrity, and it was published on April 17th of 2017. Mindfulness is only one fold of the Buddha's eightfold path to liberation. It is not the only fold. The middle factors of the Eightfold Path are the factors of integrity and wise action, wise speech, and wise livelihood. These factors of integrity intimately link the factors of wisdom and intention to the meditation factors of wise effort, wise mindfulness, and wise concentration. Thus, mindfulness alone can result in delusion without ethics. Ethical conduct, the three pillars, folds of ethical conduct that are parts of the Eightfold Path are right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And so here we are. We've discussed right action and right speech, and we've arrived at right livelihood. I don't know if I felt called to become a physician assistant, but I know that I felt called to become a leader of this Sangha. And I had listened for a long time to see whether or not this call would arise, this action of the spirit. And then one day, after a sit, Tracy, Lee, and Cormac walked over to me and they said, "So Joy, how would you like to come lead with us?" And it was like that bell, ding, here it is, this is the call. And there was one time when I was texting Booker, and I said, "Booker, I want to make sure that what I'm teaching is the Dharma." And she said, "Don't you mean mindfulness?" And I said, "No, I mean Dharma." And the reason why I said I mean Dharma is because, for me, the right livelihood of being a leader of the Sangha and also of being a physician assistant who interacts with patients has to do with ethical conduct. With just mindfulness, there are not enough guiding principles for me to tell me how I'm supposed to interact with my fellow leaders and with the Sangha, with the people I work with, and with my patients. And once again, I will refer to Larry Yang, who says it much better than I could. Even in the difficulties of confusion and delusion of our times, there is still wisdom that underlies our experience passed from generation to generation. One of these aphorisms states, "Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching." I would broaden the scope of integrity. Integrity is doing the wise and compassionate action when no one agrees with us. Integrity is walking our highest path, even if it is painful and arduous and long. Integrity is acting on behalf of others when we do not have to, because we have some benefit, privilege, power, or entitlement that protects us. Integrity is standing actively and not bystanding. Standing actively in solidarity with those whose voices and abilities have less volume or impact than yours. Integrity is being kind when everyone and everything around you is not kind. Integrity is loving when you do not feel loved yourself. Whew, boy, I needed to say that one like 3 times to myself yesterday. Integrity is loving when you do not feel loved yourself. Integrity is having ethics in unethical and amoral times, having a moral compass when others around you do not have a clue to what means and or disparage the very intentions of ethical behavior. Integrity is placing a higher value on the greater good of all, rather than the gain of an individual or selected individual groups. Integrity is holding to these principles even when there are an infinite number of distractions, seductions, and judgments that seek to weaken and obliterate those principles. I'm a member of a group of women who are trying to walk for exercise every day, and the name is Girl Trek. It's a group of women of color, and they decided to do a 21-day prayer walk. And each day, they said at a podcast with a lesson. And yesterday's lesson was about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick, for me, embodies these principles in times in which there's all this spin and all these stuff on social media and Twitter. He let his action speak by taking a knee and upholding his own internal compass that told him about having compassion for others, speaking for people who don't have the ability to get the attention of the media, speaking up for injustice. And if you look, he's actually a man of very few words. But he led his actions, and he let what his heart told him. He lets those speak to us. And in his action, that is how he is such a great teacher for our times. Right speech, right action, right livelihood. Recognizing our common humanity. First, do no harm.